Welcome, everybody, to video number 5 in our 10-part Life by You modding tutorial intro series. As always, I'm Willem Delventhal, one of the game designers on the team, and I am so pumped to talk with you today about region editing, aka making your entire own custom town that you can share with other players and or download from other players. This is a 10-part video series, like I said. It is split into 3 main sections: decoration and personalization. Go check out the past videos to talk about clothing and furniture editing. Now we're talking about lot and world design, and next we're going to talk about custom gameplay. Now remember, before we start, that everything here may well change as we update and upgrade the editors. Some of this might change, so watch the description for any extra videos or content we might link you to. All right, it's time to talk about region editing. Let's get started. So let's quickly talk about what a region actually is. You can think of it mostly as a town. A region is a little bit broader than that, though. So really it means a plot of land, a big old plot of land that an entire city or an entire town could be placed upon. All it really means is kind of like a map. It includes the terrain, the mountains, the foliage and things like that, in addition to those buildings. So you could have a region that's just a countryside, completely empty of buildings, or you could have a region that's a heavy cityscape, or you could have a region that's like a post-apocalyptic wasteland, the Wild West, or really anything else you could imagine and create in our engine. A player's entire save happens inside of one region. So when they make a new save, they're picking just a single region and they're placing their family and anybody else they create into that one region. So they're kind of like, they're going to have that post-apocalyptic playthrough, or they're going to do a Wild West playthrough, or they're just going to hang out and play in a, big old cool cityscape or something like that. For us to make a new region, just like the past 4 videos, we're simply going to start by clicking into the Create menu. Most of what we do today is going to happen inside of the region editor, but just like before as well, for us to make a new region, we have to start by making a new mod to save that region to. We're going to make that new mod simply by hitting that green plus button, and we can name our region whatever the heck we want, but I'm going to name mine Willem's Lonely Wizard World because, to be honest, I don't think I'm going to spend the 6 hours it would take to make a really cool, fully thought out world. So mine's going to be a little sparse, which is by design, clearly. I'm also going to take a second to enable Willem's magic potion stand for a specific reason. I'm actually going to use a mod in the creation of this new mod. Once I've done that, I can click into the region editor, and just like before, just like the past videos, once I'm in the region editor, I have a couple of options of how to edit stuff. I can click on an existing region, such as Sunshine Neighborhoods, and override it in order to let us edit the existing regions that are already in the game. So I could jump into Sunshine Neighborhood, also called Seaside Haven, and we could, delete the car dealership if we didn't like it, and then that would actually be reflected in the world. If we played Seaside Haven from here on out, or if anybody downloaded our mod, they would no longer have the car dealership in their world. We can also duplicate existing regions with our little duplicate button, or we can start from scratch, which is what I am going to do. So I'm going to hit the plus button, and then I'm going to name this the Willem's Lonely Wizard World. And then once I've done that, I can simply click Edit Region and jump in. So fun fact for you, the region editor is actually one of the most recent updates we did. That little pre-menu that you just saw is something that didn't exist before, that we only added because of all the comments you've been leaving on these videos. So thank you for leaving comments because it helps us make the game better. Now that I'm inside of the region editor here, you'll see that the world actually starts totally black. And that's because I have to begin by selecting a terrain. So a terrain is something, it is essentially the landscape. So all the hills, all of the mountains, all of the valleys, all of the rivers, that's our terrain. That's a game development term. If we want to make our own custom terrain, our own custom mountains, our own custom lakes, we actually need to do that inside of Unity. We would need to download Unity itself, a game development tool, in order to do that. However, in order to help those who aren't that advanced, we wanted to make sure that you could make your own regions even without that capability. So what you can do is you can select any of the pre-existing terrains and use that terrain, that empty space, for you to fill with your creations. We are not exactly sure which terrains you're going to get right off the bat, but you're definitely going to get Sunshine Neighborhood, and then we're going to try to include 1 or 2 more. So you'll have a couple of options, even if you don't want to edit your own terrain. So I'm going to, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to pick Sunshine Neighborhood, which you've seen many times before. We're going to use the same terrain that we've used in the other videos. I'm then going to go ahead and make sure to pick the matching nav mesh. A nav mesh is, or a navigation mesh is another game development term. You mostly don't need to know what it means. It just means it helps the characters walk around the world. You just want to make sure your terrain and your nav mesh match. The next button you'll see there is the starting region. That means that players can select this region as a place to start a new world from. And then you'll see the sub-region. That's mostly a term that doesn't get used very much, but it just means one region is a part of another. We then have a display name. This is what the player will actually see. So we can name this whatever we want. But of course, we're calling ours Willem's Lonely Wizard World. And then we can add any kind of description as well that we want. I'll just talk about being lonely. Yeah, that makes sense. The Edit Vistas button here at the bottom is one we're not going to talk about today, but basically that allows us to decide what kind of special views there are in our world. And the main thing I'm going to talk about first, you'll see all these buttons on the right-hand side of the screen. Those are all things that we can edit about this region. And as always, the best way to learn is just to get curious and start experimenting with them. See what happens, see what you break, and start over if you devastate everything. But first, you'll notice that this world is devoid of any buildings. All of the terrain and all the vegetation is there. And in fact, you'll notice it's a lot of vegetation compared to the regular Sunshine neighborhoods. And there's a specific reason for that. If we want to start placing actual buildings, we do so in the Lots tab. So we can click on Lots tab, and then let's find a good spot for a lot, maybe right here. And we're going to add a lot simply by clicking the green plus button in the top right of the screen. We can search for any lot we want. I was thinking I'd add a cafe, because you will need to think about needs satisfiers. So your characters need somewhere to go get some food, your AI especially, if you have NPCs or townsfolk in your town. They'll also need somewhere to use the bathroom, to have fun, to socialize, all that good stuff. So you want to make sure you have the lots in your region that can satisfy those needs. In this case, I'm going to stick a cafe because that'll cover food and water. And I'm just going to place it right here about. Let's get this lined up. And you'll notice that once I click, all of those trees and grass actually disappear. So our system will automatically clear out trees. So that way you can kind of like place this world in a way that you like. And you don't have to worry about trees getting in the way anywhere. I'll add maybe one more lot here. I'm thinking a grocery store because it's also a really important one for needs satisfiers. So that way all of our characters can go ahead and find, any food that they might need. Now, I also wanted to show you placing that custom lot that I made in the last video. As long as I have the mod enabled that has the lot saved to it, I can pick and place any lots that I've created that are in those mods that I have enabled. So you can see that I can indeed place my Magic Wizard Tower from the last mod tutorial video, and I can place that anywhere I want. I kind of wanted to place it up on that mountain, but I think the way that I made the lot, it'll be completely inaccessible, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to place it right here. It looks like the path is kind of going onto the road there, so I could smidgen it back a little bit if I wanted to. The very last thing that I need to care about for lots when I'm in a region is that you need a player spawn location. Basically, you need some lots that are considered starter lots, a lot that the player could pick as their home in this world. And so I can just basically add a couple of those default buildings, or of course, if I wanted to and I was spending more time on this, I could make a totally custom lot to do that as well. I'm just going to grab some of these barn houses and stick one or two around the world. Put one right here next to our Lonely Wizard Tower, make it a little less lonely. And then I was also thinking, I kind of wanted to see what would happen if I placed one of these barn houses like up on this mountain back here. And let's see how it looks up on top of the mountain. Oh no. Can you see that staircase there? Okay, that's interesting. So this is actually a tool that the developers added to the game, the engineers added to the game. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Wow. Well, that's incredible. So what they added was effectively, we wanted to make it so that no matter where you put a lot, it wouldn't be blocked. You could always access your lot. So they made it so that it extends the foundations like you saw with my wizard tower, and it extends any entranceways like a staircase to touch the ground. So we made basically an endless staircase to get to Barnhouse B2. I love it. It's amazing. We're going to keep it. And maybe the engineers will get mad at me for recording it in this video. That is the lot editor. I'll now show you the objects editor, which is probably the thing you'll do second most often. in the regions editor. So the object editor is very similar to what you'll see in live edit mode, or even in the home builder mode, the home editor mode, where you're placing, beds and stuff like that in your home. Any objects can be accessed and then placed directly into the region. So rather than having to place them on the lot, on any lot, you can just place it and then save it to the region. This allows us to do a bunch of really interesting stuff. So for instance, we could just like stick a little construction sign here, and that way we have a little bit of extra like lore about our world. Maybe there's some dangerous place we don't want the player to go to or something like that. But we can also get, creative with this and do interesting stuff with it. I mentioned, by the way, foliage is one of the things you'll need to edit on the grand scale inside of Unity if you get more advanced. But I can do a little bit of foliage editing simply by adding them as objects just with the object editor. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to make kind of like a little grotto over here. I'm not going to spend too long on it. I just want to show you the kinds of things you could do. But I could like make a little semicircle here with some bushes, and then maybe I could stick some kind of light on it. Let's see what kind of light options we have. There are lamp posts. What did we call those? I don't think I like any of those. We could go with one of these little short guys. I don't like it. There's definitely lampposts. Just have to remember what they're called. Yes, there it is. Outdoor lamppost. Okay. So we could place one of these so that it is shining over our little grotto. So that might make the player easier, be able to find this area a little bit more easily or something like that. Okay, so that is the objects editor. You can place objects anywhere in the region and they will actually get saved to the region. A lot of the objects are mostly just aesthetic, like that construction sign, but some of them are also functional. So for instance, if I place a bus stop in my region, I will actually occasionally get deliveries of visitors to our town, which can help fill up the world. So you probably want to place a bus stop or two in your own world. And there are other objects, by the way, that have other functionality that's kind of similar. You'll just learn that as you play the game and as you mess around with the options that are in here. So for the next two tabs, locators and volumes, those are both much more advanced, and mostly you're not going to use those unless you're writing custom code. So for the most part, you can ignore those too. But of course, as always, the best way to learn is just to experiment. The sounds tab allows you to do exactly what you'd think. You can add sounds to your world. You can add some peaceful background music, but you can also add volumetric sound. So basically, sound that only appears in a certain place. Maybe you add some river sound effects or something like that. The last thing I'm really going to show you is the Troves editor. The Troves editor is something that I actually used a lot because I'm the guy responsible for the crafting in the game. So a trove is kind of like a little treasure chest, and there's a bunch of options you can see here that we made for you. So I could place an archaeology grave table, for instance, and you'll see I basically I'm defining an area that this trove might spawn. So right now, the only area that trove is going to spawn in this tiny circle, but you can see I can expand out the circle and make it as big as I want. I can also change it over to a rectangle, and then I can drag these little corners to make the rectangle bigger. So I can make a massive area that this trove might spawn inside of. If I want the trove to spawn, I can also mess with the settings down there under the Trove editor. So I could, for instance, change what the mode is. Right now, the default mode is every hour at minute, which means this trove will spawn every single hour at this exact minute. So at the 10-minute mark, this trove will spawn every single hour, 24 times a day. So that's if we have a really, generic, more common trove, but we can also do one that's every hour on the day, so it only spawns once a day, and we can even get more advanced than that. This infinite lifetime checkbox makes it so that the trove never disappears. If I don't click that, it will disappear after a certain number of minutes. So I actually usually like to make these infinite lifetime. And then the quantity is just how many of the objects that could spawn appear when you pick it up. So I could, for instance, just like place, if you look at the main region, there's a million of these. So I could place these anywhere I want. It might make sense for us to have some wildflower troves placed right here, because this is the gardens, of course. And I can make this spawn at like minute 45, given it infinite lifetime, make it so that you can pick up 1 through 5 items. And that's really it. That's like basically your trove editing. But I could also, I was kind of imagining that as an example here, I could add a really special trove that gives you a bunch of stuff right here to this special little grotto we added with our object editor. So I'll place that there. We'll do an archaeology settlement just because it kind of sounds cool. Make it spawn at, yeah, sure, minute 10 is fine. I might make it less common than that. Right now, once again, that'll spawn 24 times a day, but just for the demonstration purposes, I don't care. And I'm going to make it spawn a bunch of stuff. You can get between 10 and 25 items out of that one trove. So there you go. That is the Trove editor, which means we're actually now pretty much done. There are all of these other editors that are in here, but these other editors, you're not really going to be editing the region with. It's just so that you could jump straight into another editor because you might need to. For instance, if I wanted to make a new custom item that I wanted to add to one of these troves, I could click into the item editor, make the new item in there, add it to the trove, come back to the region editor straight from there, and add it to our trove. So this is another one of those really powerful ways that we're trying to make editing and modding of Life by You really effective. So that's basically it. That's the region editor. We now have a whole little region. There's not much here. It's a little lonely, but it will all function. And you, of course, when you make your own, can make it much more advanced and pretty. So let's go ahead and hit save, and then we can close the region and go test it out. All right, you may have noticed that every time I make one of these videos, I show off at least 2 of the editors, and that's because I just want to surface all of the cool stuff you can do with the modding tools in Life by You. So if I click into the population preset here, I will be able to make a custom population for my town. That kind of means like a cultural background, but I can really edit anything to do with these people and make a specific group of people that appears in my town. So I could make like a post-apocalyptic group or a zombie group or a Wild West kind of group or something like that. Any population preset that I want that appears in a specific region. And by the way, population presets are independent of region, so people can use this in any region, which is part of the reason they're 2 separate editors. So I can play with all sorts of stuff, including skin color. I even kind of think that default white color is interesting. They look like vampires or something like that. But I have a pretty specific idea of what I'm going to do. Let me see how just horrendous this looks. And purple. Oh, and reset your models. They look terrible, which is perfect. And if you want to make your own that's better, make your own. All right, I have horrifying purple people. I can play with any of these other settings. I could, for instance, do a custom hair color maybe. Ooh, I kind of even like the white hair. But I could make this like purple hair if I felt like it. That looks fine. I think I'll just allow any hair color there. And then I could mess with some of the other stuff too. Like for instance, I can even pick which likes my population preset has, which I've always found really fascinating. So I could make all these people behave a certain way, which is really, really allows you to make those custom worlds and tell your own custom stories. I can make all these people like a certain thing. Maybe they all like philosophy or I don't know, makeup or what feels purple. What's a purple like? Oh, maybe video games. Yeah. All these people like video games, or 50% of them like video games anyway. There you go. I can also decide which ages appear in this preset, and I can do all kinds of other stuff, including how they look and things like that. So this is population presets, and I'll show you how to actually plug it in just a moment. But it's another editor that just allows you to customize this world and share it with other players and then download it from other players. You can imagine what kinds of population presets you'll be able to get from our modding collection soon enough. So now that we have a custom region and a custom population preset, it's time to actually try that out in the game. And just like the previous videos, all you got to do that is hit New Game, and then make sure you select the correct region. In this case, Willem's Lonely Wizard World. You can see there the description and everything. Now, before you exit this screen, I want to draw your attention to this Population Demographics button. And this, on its own, even without population presets, is a pretty cool feature that we haven't covered too much. All of these settings are available to you to try to make your town, your world that you are playing in, unique to you. But you'll see if you scroll down a little bit in this population demographic that those population sets we created, or population presets, are all represented here, and all of them are going to be placed evenly, except we'll have no purple people, that custom preset we made. So if we want to make sure that that happens more often, all we gotta do is drag that bar up and then make this one 0 and this one 0 and this one 0 and this one 0. And suddenly the only people we will get in the world are purple. So now we can hit continue. And I believe, yes, oh my God, we immediately get the population preset working. The characters even that we're getting from our randomizer now are matching our population preset instantly, because that is the only preset that we're allowing thanks to those changes we made in the demographics screen. So I'm actually just going to accept this nanny character. We got to make sure that we pick the right house, which I believe was, I think it was the other one. We're going to make sure we start with Meadowview because I want to be in that house that has like the ridiculously long staircase. I just thought that was so funny. And our town won't have any workplaces yet, although let me make sure that I have a wealthy lifestyle. There we go. You notice that my houses were locked, and that's because I didn't have enough money to afford them yet. So we just had to switch to a wealthy lifestyle to make sure when you make your regions, make sure you have some cheap options for players as well as expensive ones. So we do actually have workplaces available because we added a cafe and a grocery. But now we're ready to hit play and actually jump into our world and see how it all looks. All right, we've successfully loaded into our house up on the hill with our ridiculously long staircase. It's beautiful. I've never seen something as gorgeous as that before. And we can see that our entire region has now loaded, and it is uniquely different, distinctly different from Sunshine Neighborhoods, aka Seaside Haven, the starting location that you'll all get access to when you get the game. We can see our Wizard Tower, our custom modded lot, is there. We can see that just those 2 lots that we placed are there. Here's our beautiful little cafe. You know, we can go inside and access it just like any other world. And we can see that some of those custom objects we added are also there. So we could go over and see that those places we added are there. Now I want to immediately like have my character come out. I'm actually curious how long it's going to take Nanny to walk down this massive, massive staircase. I'm going to time it. So it looks like we're starting the top of the staircase there at about 8:20, and now I'm gonna just wait. Maybe we'll time lapse it. I don't know. I leave it to Rocio, who's editing these, by the way. Thank you, Rocio. But let's see. I want to find out what time they get to the bottom of this massive staircase. And time. So they got to the bottom at about 9:50. They started walking at about 8:20, which means that staircase takes them an hour and a half to walk up and down. Amazing. You can see the rest of our world is totally normal. And honestly, we don't need to, I don't really need to describe it too much to you because it acts and behaves like any other game. I could also, of course, go over. Why don't we go get that super special trove? So this is hypothetically, if we're making an amazing region, this is maybe a like a special spot that they discovered. We could go hide it way off in the forest or something. So here my character is grabbing the trove, and in just a moment that'll pop up. We can see that our flower trove that we placed is also there. It got placed randomly in that area. Here's all our special stuff from this trove. Looks like we found a recipe. Ooh, hoo, hoo. There we go. We got some cool troves. Amazing. And we have successfully, it seems like, created an entire region that is just ours. It is using the terrain of the existing town, but once again, if you do download Unity, you'll be able to make your own terrain if you wish, and I'll show you a little bit about how to do that a little later. I'll at least show you how to set up Unity, but otherwise you can use existing terrains. And by the way, that will include terrains that you download. So if you download somebody's mod that has a custom terrain, you'll also be able to make your own town using their terrain. So that is just about everything I'm going to show you in this video. I'm curious what all of you are going to make with the region editor. And I just want to remind everybody that there is more you can do. Like, this is already a bunch of tools. I think you saw that. But you'll also be able to do more in the Unity editor should you choose to download it and really get advanced in the modding, including making your own terrain, adding vegetation editing, and we'll do a Unity setup pretty soon. Video after next will be a Unity setup video for you. And that is going to do it for this video. That is officially everything that I wanted to talk about here. So before we say goodbye, a couple of last things. And that is number one, don't forget to use your resources. We really want to support people in building mods. We hope that this is essentially a tool for self-expression and for exploring your imagination. So if you're having any issues, come into the Discord and get some help in there. There's also going to be an FAQ soon on making mods, and there are even more detailed videos for those who are a little bit more advanced available as well. We will have a video coming soon on uploading and downloading your own mods. And also, our next video is going to be about making your own custom gameplay. I'm actually going to give you an intro on visual scripting, our own custom visual scripting language. And I know some of you just went, I'm out, scripting, oof. But I really mean it, that we have created a coding language that is pretty understandable, especially for the basic stuff. So I encourage you to come check it out and let me convince you that you too can script. I promise. It's crazy. I have a final thing to say, which is, of course, a design challenge. And this one I think is going to be a really fun one. I want you to draw out a map of a region that you want to create. So maybe you make that post-apocalyptic world. Maybe you make that Wild West world, or maybe like a fairy world or a magic world, or just a good old city with an interesting layout. I want you to draw a map of this region that you plan on making in Life by You. And then when you get your hands on the game, I want you to actually try making it. I want to download it. I want to play your worlds. I want to get lost in your own imaginations. That's like the best part of games like this. I think that's going to do it. This has been Willem Delventhal, one of the game designers on the team, and your modding tutorial video guide. I've had a lot of fun making these. Thank you for watching them. Leave me your thoughts and comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one where we talk about custom gameplay. All right. Goodbye, everybody.